Hey everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to create a Glassmorphic login page. If you don't know what Glassmorphim is, it basically looks like a glass card or a glass page where you can see the background going through it. It's a very specific design and this will be for beginners, so you will get to learn exactly what it is and how you can make one on your own. So this is a Glassmorphic website. This is what we will be building. As you can see, it looks like a glass card. As we go along, I'll be showing you all the details and how you can make it yourself, but there is also a Glassmorphic generator that you can create, and you just control the blur. You'll see the difference over here, I believe. It should be showing you. Yeah, you can see over here the edges, how they blur, and you can also control the transparency amount. So let's go ahead and start working on it. So what we're going to do is create a folder first. That's the first thing I always do. So for me, I just put it into desktop. I created a folder called tutorials. Now I'm going to create a folder within tutorials, and I'm going to call it Glassmorphic. I switched between a Mac, so now the keyboard is kind of throwing me off. Let's call it Glassmorphic card. So now that we created this, I'm going to open up VS Code. I'm going to open up a new folder, and I found my folder over here. I'm going to select it. Okay, what we're going to do now that this folder opened up, I'm going to create an index.html file. This will be our HTML page, and then I'm also going to right away add the CSS page. So it's going to be style.css. Okay. So in the index.html file, I'm going to click on it here. I'm going to hit Shift exclamation point and just click enter, and VS Code will fill in your HTML information over here. In the header, right away, I'm going to add the style sheet. So I'll just do link rel. I don't know why it's not completing it for me, but I'm going to write style sheet. And then I'm going to add a link to it so it knows what to connect to, and we're going to say style, oh my goodness, style.css, because this is the name of the file over here. And remember to add a closing tag. I am also going to just install the Google fonts. Here I was Googling how to enlarge it, this screen. Let's do Google fonts, and I already have a font that I want to use. It's called Lotto, so I believe that it will already be uploaded for me, but you guys can choose whatever you like. Here I have Lotto, so I'm just going to copy paste and into the header. Okay, so now we have that. Let's get started and go into our body. So first thing we're going to do is create a div that will, let me show you what we're doing. So first we're going to create a div that will be the highlight of this entire area right here, the welcome and the login card, because we want it to be like aligned on top of each other, and we will use the flexbox to do this. So let's go in here and say div class, and let's call it login container. Let's close it. Now we're going to create the h1 tag, which is the welcome back. Now we're going to create another div, and this will be the card itself. So I'm going to give it the class of login card. Let's close that div. And in login card, we're going to add the h2 tag, which says login. And now we're going to create the form itself. So it's form equals quotations and let's say action. So what this is now we are creating this part right here. So right after login, this was the h2 tag. We are creating the action form right here. So this will be all under the action div. Let's go in here and start creating div class input. And what this is, so actually let me just finish typing it up and I'll explain it. So we're going to create the label right now for email, and then we're going to actually say email so that you can see it. And then for the input, this is where you actually type in the email. you're inputting an email. So we're going to do input type text placeholder is email. So that means that they will see what is written inside of it. Copy it, paste it. So this is going to now be password. It's right beneath the email. Password, text, and then let's put password here as well. And then the next thing that we have to do is basically just add in the forgot password link and the submit or the login and the sign up. So what we just did, so this was its own div right here, and then we made another div right here for password. So right here is where we put the label, and this right here is the input, and this right here is the placeholder. The next thing that we're working on is to create this forgot password link right here. Scroll down. This will be outside of, actually no, yeah, it will be outside of the form. So let's create a div class of forgot password dash password, and all it is inside of this div is going to be an ahref link, and we're just going to put a hashtag right now because it won't be linking to anything, and we will write forgot password. I'll just add an a question mark over here. Now we are going to create another div, and this will be for the buttons, the sign up and login. So we are going to write buttons wrapper. Let's create a div for the login and then for the sign up, because I'm going to make them a little bit different from each other. Div class login a href hashtag, and it's going to say login. Now let's just copy and paste this, and now let's do sign up. Let's write sign up over here as well. So what we did here, creating this div, when we are going to be styling it in CSS, we're going to add a flex to this. So if we added a flex to just one of these, it wouldn't really do anything. But if it's wrapped inside of a div, then flexbox knows to put them side by side next to each other when we tell it to do that, basically. So that's why it's important to group things like that. That's why you have to kind of like style it and know before you start coding. At least that's what helps me do that. So let's just save this and let's open it up right now. So you go to your folder that you created and you will have these files in here. So to view it locally, you will just click the HTML link. So this is what we have right here. So these are all links. As you see, we use the href. This is the form over here. This is where we can type things in. And now we are going to start styling it. So we are going to move it all to the center. We're going to add a background, and then we will start styling the card itself around it. And it's going to be pretty simple. So let's go back into VS Code. What we're going to do here is we're first going to create the asterisk. This is kind of like a, basically everything in here will apply to the entire page. So we're going to say padding 0, margin 0, and box sizing border box. And then since we added the font family, I will add the font family in here as well right now, because it will apply to the entire page. I'm gonna, because we selected Lato, that's what I'm going to be using. If you selected another font, just type that in here. So let's go and view it right here. So right now we added padding 0, margin 0, so you're going to see it all go up to the edges over here. And the font style is going to change, so see how we did that there. So now let's go into the body itself and start styling it. So I'm going to type in body, and I'm going to say width 100%, percent, not pixels. Height 100, viewport height. I'm going to say display flex, justify content center, because we want it to move to the center of the whole page. Background. So what we're going to do for the background is we're going to add it in. So let me just skip over that really quickly. Let's continue. I'm going to do align items center. So for the background, you can go to unsplash.com and it has really great options for you. These are most of these are free. You could just look at them. It'll show you the artist and everything. I'm just going to select this one. It looks pretty cool. Because again, you have to remember that you have to have some kind of like interesting background back there to make it look Glassmorphic basically. So right here, I'm just going to download it for free. Once it's finished loading, computer's kind of slow. So I'm going to move this into our folder over here. So I'm just going to drag, oops, disappeared, drag it into this file. So now that we have the image over here in our folder, it will come up in our folder file over here. So I wasn't able to change it for some reason, but I copied the name of it. And what we're going to do is, just close that out. What we're going to do is add it into the background. I'm going to type in URL, and within the parentheses, I'm going to paste the name of the image. And I will save that, and let's see what it looks like. So right now it's basically just really enlarged, but we want it to be the entire picture, like a normal photo basically. So how we do that is we go back into the body, and I will add a background size, and we will say cover. Now as we refresh it, it should come up as a normal image. So here we go. So now we are going to style this entire area right here. So let's go back into VS Code. We're going to start with the H1 and H2 tags, and I'm going to change their color to white. Save it. Now for the H1 tag, I'm going to be a little more specific here because it's separate from the H2 tag. I'm going to make the font size 30 pixels. Yeah, let's do 30. Then I'm going to go to letter spacing. I just don't like how crunched up it is, so I'm going to add 1 pixels in between each letter. We're going to say text align center. And then padding bottom 50 pixels because I don't want it to be touching the card. I kind of want it to be in its own place. So let's check it out. And we see it up here. So we see that the H1 and H2 tag, we changed them to white, and now the welcome back is bigger and it has more space and it's up above the card. So now we're going to start designing the card itself. Let's go into the VS Code. Let's actually style the H2 tag first since it's the first thing. I'm going to make the font size 25 pixels, so just a little bit smaller than the H1 tag. And margin bottom or padding bottom, either one works right now, so I'm just going to do 20 pixels for that. Next we're going to add the login containers, start styling that. We're going to give it a width of 600 pixels. We're going to assign it a position of relative and z index 0. Oops, added 2 of those. Now let's work on the card. So we're going to do login dash card, which is right here. So basically we're working on this entire div right here. We're going to give it the width of 600 pixels also. Padding 30 pixels. We want it to have some space within the card itself. We are going to align the text to the center. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel solid, and this border is going to be like a slightly gray color, C4, C4, C4. Border radius of 10 pixels. And next, we will add a box shadow to it. This will make it look like the card is floating, like it's 3D basically. So the box shadow is 0, and then 5 pixels, and then 15 pixels. Then we're going to add an RGB, and that is going to be 0, 0, 0, 10%. Then we're going to add a background color. So this is what makes the card right here. This is what is going to make it basically look like a card. The reason for that is because the RGBA is basically see-through, like it's transparent. So how we do that is by adding these numbers over here. I don't know why I keep adding a period. 255, 255, 255, and then 0.1, and that's basically the amount of the transparency. Let's save this so that you can see what's happening. See how we added this transparency right here? So if we got rid of it, let's do this. Just going to copy it first, delete it, let's save it. So we got rid of that, and it's just, you know, completely see-through, but we wanted to add like a glassy, foggy look basically, and that's basically what makes it look like it's a card, because it's still kind of see-through. So now it looks a lot more like a glass card. And then we're going to just kind of add more design to the border itself, so it looks like there's some shadows. So let's go ahead and change the border top. The border top will be 0.25 pixels, and then we're going to give it a somewhat see-through color. So we're going to do RGBA. Again, we're going to do 0, 0, 0, and 0.1. Then border left, dang, this keyboard is going to be the same thing. So I'm just going to copy it. Control copy, and let's paste it. Let's save it. Let's see what it changed. So as you can see, it pretty much made this almost invisible. Okay, now we're going to design the input div. So what this is these two over here, the email and the password. So we're going to give it some space. We're going to add a height of 40 pixels, then a font of 20 pixels. Now let's go to the label itself and give it the color of white. If you chose a lighter background, you'll probably have to choose a darker font color. In my case, since I chose a darker background, I have to choose a lighter font color. So then we're going to say display inline block width 90 pixels, text align right, and padding right of 5 pixels. Okay, our next one is the input. So here we had an input div, but this is the input itself, which means that we are now going to be editing this part right here where we actually type in the email and password. So first we're going to do outline none. So let's give it a height of 30 pixels, then a width of 40%. Let's give it the color of white so that when they type it in, they can see it. Font size, font size 13 pixels. Border none. Let's give it a clear background so that it matches the card. I'm going to paste that same design that we had, that same shade that we had earlier. I'm just going to take out that 0.25 pixels out. And then I'm going to give it a box shadow. And the box shadow will be 0.005 pixels. And then the same RGB, just get rid of this part again. And then I'm going to say inset. Then let's give it a letter spacing of 1 pixel like we did earlier with the H1 and H2 tags, and then I'm going to give it a border radius of 5 pixels. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, that looks a lot better. See how we can type it in. Okay, let's keep on styling it. Let's also give it a padding left of 5 pixels. Let's see if it moves it from the edge over here. Yeah, it did. Okay, so let's leave that. Now we're going to edit the placeholder. What we do is put 2 semicolons, write placeholder. So for the placeholder, I'm gonna give it the color of let's not do white. Let's do this one. Let's do D7D4FF. And then we're going to give it a font size of 17 pixels. We forgot to add the R to placeholder, that's why we weren't seeing that color change. So I'm going to go back and add the hashtag in. I took it out because I was trying to figure out what the problem was. So it's D7D4FF. Save it. Okay, now we should see it change color. Okay, there we go. It's a lot better looking. And we're almost done. Now we just have to style these links over here and the buttons themselves. So let's go in and for the links, let's say text decoration none. Okay, that's it for that. Now we're for the forgot password link. I want it to be a different color from the other links, so that's why I have to add my own right here. And for the color, I want it to be a little bit darker. Oops. Say color. I'm gonna add the hashtag 454452. Now for the forgot password, let's start adding some designs to it. Let's give it a padding on the top of 2 pixels, and on the bottom we want a little bit more padding away from the sign up and login buttons, so I'm going to give it 10 pixels. Now let's work on the buttons wrapper. It was BTNS dash wrapper. I'm going to give it a display of flex. So what this is going to do is, instead of them being on top of each other, they're going to be next to each other. So we'll do display flex, justify content center, and align items center. Save it. So see how we already styled it, and over here they became side to side. So now I have to make the buttons themselves and separate them, and we're going to make them a little bit bigger and change that color. So what that does is we're going to go style both of the buttons right away first. So I'm going to go into dot login, comma, and dot sign up. So let's start with the border, because I want a border around both of them. We'll do 2 pixels, solid, and white. Then we're going to give them both a width of 15%, padding 5 pixels, and a margin top of 10 pixels. Then let's give them a font size of about, let's do 18 pixels. I feel like 16 is what people usually use, but let's just try going with 18. Then the last thing we're going to add is give them a border radius, because we want it to match the rest of the design over here. So let's give it 5 pixels radius. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, so right now, okay, the reason why the sign up one wasn't working was because I gave it a capital S over here. So let's change that. Okay, now it worked. So you always have to spell check. That happens way too often. Okay, so we're done with those. Let's go into the login one and give it its own styling, because as you can see here, we made it gray, and this one for to sign up, we made a different color. I mean, a different background. We didn't give it a background color. So, okay. Let's give it a margin right of 5 pixels. This is going to be the background color that we're going to add. To make it look a little bit foggy, I'm going to do RGBA, and I'm going to do 212, 255, 234, and 0.4, because I don't want it to be too see-through. Then we're going to change the login link itself so that it's not blue. I'm going to change the color of it to a darker color since we have a lighter background now. I'm going to change it to 40527D. Now let's style the sign up button, and I'm going to give it some space between the two buttons, so I'm going to say margin left 5 pixels. And then for the sign up button, I'm going to make it white, because we have that, dark background since it's see-through. So we're going to do color and white. That should work. Okay, that was the original, so let's look at it. Here we go. So here's our design. And what we could do is also, what a lot of people do is add a filter blur. So it would basically blur like the edges of it over here. It looks like there's already kind of a blur, but I think that's already part of the image. Let's go ahead and add that. And where it would have to be is the login card. So it would be right here. So we will write filter blur, and let's look up how to do that. So we might be able to find it here. Backdrop filter blur 2 pixels. Okay, let's just copy this and see what it does. So I'm just learning right now with you guys when it comes to this part right here, because I haven't used it yet, but I know that a lot of people have been using it, so let's see what that does. Okay, it looks like I added a little bit of a blur right here and right there, I think. I guess let's see, let's check it out. Let's save it. Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, I think it's better with the backdrop filter, so Let's add it back in and save that. So you can also in CSS make your own circles in the background and stuff. This was just easier for the tutorial to just select a background, so as we can see it gives it that blurry effect over here. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned something new and that it was fun for you. Share your links below if you wrote an encode pen or anything like that, and make sure to tag me. You can check out my Twitter. I will be posting more tutorials. I will be making a pneumorphic login card and a claymorphic login card. Claymorphic has been really popular lately, so it's going to be fun to learn. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.